Hello everyone and welcome to Zack Big Productions, and today we will look at Kinera Loki, and this is loaned to me from Jaben. So thanks to them again for loaning me this copy. I'm going to return them really soon, like maybe tomorrow or the day after. Today will just be really a first impression and an initial look at the IM itself. Now, this is obviously not the official packaging, so whatever you see in this packaging is probably not the actual item itself when it comes to the packaging part, except for the IM. I'm pretty sure the IM is the Kinera Loki. And probably the cable too, because I noticed that they always will pack with the default cables. They don't mess with it. But the things like the tips, and of course the case, this is obviously not the case, it's something that you must take note is not the original stuff. Now, the Kinera Loki itself is a 12 driver IM, and there is 6 BA, 4 EST, 1 DD, and 1 bone conductor. So it is a very, I would say, it's complex 4 different type of driver, quad beat drivers, IM, and I'm not too sure how it exactly will sound. I have not heard it before, so this is actually my very first time trying it out. Because of its configuration, I will be comparing it with my Nobel Onyx, which is a very similar configuration, just less driver. I mean, that one was 4 BA, 2 ESTs, 1 DD, and 1 bone conductor, and this is like a little bit more. In fact, a lot more, 4 more drivers. But you know what? Let's not waste time and take a look at the IEM. Now, actually, I'm very interested in where Jaben gets this small little pouch. If you know where, do write in the comments below. This small little pouch to put the 2 drivers are really nice. I mean, I bought a very nice case. Later, I'll show you before we actually talk about sound impressions. And I'll use it for my Onyx. That case is really nice. But today, let's focus on the Kinera Loki. And this looks fabulous. I mean, take a look at this. I really like how the high-end IEMs are more like jewelries. They look all really nice. I mean, most of the faceplates are really just beautiful. Now, this driver, based on what I see, one side, the IEM, it's not too big. I guess it's on the larger side, mid to large side, but not the largest I ever seen, and also not really small. And I can tell that the stem here is pretty long. It's not too short of a stem. In fact, let me take it out. This is not a very short stem, and it has a lip, so you can actually mount many tips easily. And the nozzle here isn't that huge too. I think you can mount most of the standard tips you can find in the market easily on this IEM. Yeah, it's pretty much normal. Now, this is of course the default tip, and this tip doesn't look too big. I'm not too sure is it the default one that comes with the Loki, but you know what? I will just maybe I will just swap this. Oh no, never mind. In fact, you know what? I will swap the tips later, because I did notice that sealing is really important for IEM. I will just get a tip that seals really well, and a signature that usually works with most IEMs. I will just do it later. Now, one thing I noticed is that the tip itself is some sort of a metal tip here. You notice that this is not the resin behind. This looks like some sort of metal with 4 holes. So it is actually a very nice tip for IEM. The other IEMs usually just drill holes or have some sort of custard holes or some really ugly holes. And most of them are just like the normal mesh one. This is like clear through, no mesh. So it does change the sound signature. Now, let's take a look at the rest of the IEM. Now, this is the cable. This is an effects audio cable. I'm not too sure whether is this the original cable. Let me go online, and if it's the original, I'll write down somewhere in the screen here. Right, this is a very nice cable for sure, but since I'm not too sure, in fact, what? Let me do a check. 1 minute. So I went to check, and yes, this is actually the cable itself. This is an effects audio cable, and it's a pure copper type. So I mean, it's a really nice cable. I wouldn't really argue in any way. It's very nice, and I believe this is a spiral type. Yeah, really beautiful cable. Now, I have to really say that for high-end IEMs, it's really a jewelry, as I said earlier, jewelry. And things like cables and, the IEM itself do matter considering the price you pay. Of course, sound is the most important, but just note that, for the money you pay, you probably want to look at such things too. With that out of the way, oh yes, I noticed there's some bass pot here, I think, or some pot here. Okay, so with that out of the way, we have look through the IEM stuff. We will do a listening. Now, for my first impressions, usually I break it out to two parts. So the first part will be the one that, talks about my general impression itself. So I will just listen to some songs that I like with this IEM and give you my impressions of those. Normally I'll do 2 to 3 songs and I'll just show you what I play. And then next I will do a comparison, and for this review I will compare with the Nobel Onyx because it is the closest IEM in terms of configuration, and I just want to see whether there's a difference or not, right? The comparison similarly will be about 2 songs. And with all of that done, I will actually give a summary when it comes to my initial impression of the audio quality of this particular IEM, and then I will talk a little bit of my personal preference. Just to note that personal preference plays a huge part, and today is an initial impression, so I'm not going to try 10 different tips for it, and tips do change the sound and therefore change my personal impression and preferences. So just to note, this is like a disclaimer. Now with all that out of the way, let's have an initial listen and then give some impressions of this particular IEM. Now for this particular review, I'll be using my CN-E here. This is a R2R depth. I bought this in Japan secondhand, and it's about 1,400 Sing dollars, or slightly less than 1,000 USD, if you convert. So this is secondhand and it is relatively affordable. Now I was very sad because there was a discount after that. They actually reduced this price further by another $100, and it was just 1 week after I arrived in Japan. So if I would have waited a week time, this would have even be cheaper at 1,300 Sing dollars, or about 930 USD. But it's okay. I enjoyed this for 1 week in Japan before the discount. Sometimes better not to see the price. Okay, but that said, this is the CN-E300. This is R2R depth, and yes, good amount of power. I've tried with a few IEMs. It sounds pretty good. And the R2R part of it is somewhere in between an AKM and I would say as ESS Saber style output. If I compare this to my Feel and then compare this against my M9 Plus Shuntling, this is really somewhere in between. So this is not, not warmish or overly smooth, nor is it very, very clear and pure like the ESS. Somewhere in between is a very nice combination. But today is not a review of the CN-E300, so I'll just put it aside. So let's take a listen. And as I said just now, I will just try some tips. So I'll get my tips up. So recently I've been collecting tips actually. This is my box here. You can see a lot of empty places still, and then there's a lot filled up here. Really a lot of tips. I have some metal ones, some standard silicone one. I dislike foam, so no foam tips for me. And today I will actually try something more standard. Usually I'll use the Baroque tips because those tips are the most standard tips when it comes to general sound quality, and I kind of like it. Oh wait, the tips are not here. Now this is my portable box. I bring this out for review, and yes, it contains my favorite tip. This is the Baroque, Elitech Baroque tips. The Elitech Baroque tips on most IEM sounds really good, and it's not like Divinus style smooth and warm and a little bit more bass. This is like a little bit more punchy yet very clear, and retains most of the characteristics of the IEM. So I really like this particular tip itself, though it's very shallow and sometimes it doesn't really work out. But the tip here is actually quite long, so I hope that it works out pretty nicely. Okay, I fitted it up in like seconds, so great. The fitting was good, and you can see the tip itself. So without wasting time, let's take a listen to the songs. Okay, for the first one, I would like to hear my I No Akuruhi from Edo. If you have not heard the song before, go on to YouTube and just have a listen. If you like Japanese J-pop and you like Ado's voice, this is a really, really nice song. Very smooth and very powerful in the middle. So let's not waste time and take a listen. Now, my initial impression of this IEM is very good clarity, nice extension into the highs, very nice air for Edo's voice for this particular track, and the bass is really good too, punchy, got some depth. And overall, when it comes to the powerful part of this song, which is the chorus, it is well projected, powerful, and really gives you that, Edo's vocals, which is more on the screamy, powerful side, and I really like it. Now, the thing is, there's always many ways to render this particular sound, or should I say particular song. I know Akuruhi can be rendered in a very, I think, fragile-like manner, because at the start she sings in a very fragile way before she builds up all the power. But normally, I would say as IEMs that render it that way, they don't sound that powerful in the middle and chorus. But for this particular IEM, it's not exactly that way. It's more of a smooth nature with a little bit of I'm not too sure. I mean, it sounds a kind of neutral-ish to me. And when it comes to the actual chorus itself, where the power, the voice is projected, it actually pushes all the way and really brings out the vocals of Edo itself. Now, I know Akuruhi is not like a absolute track when it comes to details and clarity. I do hear most of the instruments they are playing quite clearly. I didn't discover anything new, nor did I find the bass here the absolute craziest I ever heard before. But this is all impressions, so I little compare with my Nobel Onyx to really have a better idea when it comes to such parameters too. Now, that being said, that is my first song, so I will now try the second song. And for the second song, let's see. I really like Edos these days, so most likely want to try another Edo song. But you know what? I think it's a bit waste if I keep trying Edo's song for my reviews here. Let's try. Let's see. Okay, let's go for YOASOBI. YOASOBI is like last year's top J-pop group. And I don't listen to Idol. I actually don't quite like Idol, in case if you're wondering. Let me see. I will go for Yusha. So I have tried Yusha with this, and Yusha is a bass-heavy song with a lot of cymbals and high-pitched instruments. So I would say as the Loki is definitely both very bassy. I'm pretty sure it's quite bassy. At least in the sub-bass region, there's a lot of this rumbling feel to this IEM. The mids, I would say, as a mid-bass and lower type, not just the impact. The impact is good, but I don't think the impact is where this IEM is too special. But it go lower into the rumbling bass. This is pretty nice. And then there is the high treble extension, and that is quite apparent here. The treble is actually a little bit more forward than I think compared in the first song. It is actually quite a lot of energy there and a little bit forward. The cymbals, the small little I'm not sure, electronic or some sort of bell instruments they are playing that is belonging to the higher pitch type. It's very, very clear here. In fact, this is kind of close to my limit when it comes to treble-based instrument, especially the cymbals. For me, I'm very sensitive to it, and when the cymbals are very pronounced, I can reach a point where it just sounds like scratchy things that are happening in the music. And luckily, this is below that threshold, so it's still pretty nice to me, pretty good, but it's a little bit energetic and a little bit, I would say, as sparkly to close to hot, I guess, kind of sound. Not too hot till that is unbearable. So it's pretty good. And the mids wise, I think this is like a bit more on the neutral side. I don't find it's tinted in this particular song, at least when it comes to compared to the bass and the treble. The mids are pretty neutral and nice, and the vocals are very, very, very clean. Now, I don't have at least not this song. This song is not good for testing instruments in the mids, but I'm more interested to know whether it has sibilants, which belongs to the higher mids or lower treble region. I probably want to try a song with it, but for that I want to compare rather than just talk about the Loki itself. So as I said, I want to compare with my Onyx, and this is my Onyx. I just bought this very nice Lepic case. It's really, really nice. It's not really big too, and it puts the IM in very nicely. You can see this is my Onyx here, and it puts the cables here and holds the IMs nicely, neatly here, and it doesn't rattle. So very, very nice case, and supposedly that this thing controls the moisture and what's. But I don't care. It's a crush-proof case, and it's really nicely built, and it holds my IM really beautifully. So let's try it out. So the song that I'm going to try will be Ibarra, and for a good reason. Ibarra is a song that is very easily highly sibilant, and it is a very exciting song. The bass is not very strong. There is small little instruments here and there, but a lot of the song itself is focused on Ado's vocals. It's all about the power in her vocals, and I just want to know whether this IM has that power. It sounds like it has, so I'm really excited. So I've tested the song Ibarra on both of these, and it can't be further apart when it comes to sound signature. The Kinera Loki is like really clear, a touch bright, impactful bass, not too much, and the sound is a little bit more like in front of you but not too wide. That is really the impression of the Kinera Loki. The Onyx is like the opposite side. It is warm, smooth, not as clear. I really have to say the Loki is miles ahead when it comes to clarity. Even though both are flagship, and the Nobel Onyx is actually really, really clear. I mean, many people have tried and many people say that this is ultra clear. But when it comes compared to the Loki, no. The Loki is even clearer. And then when it comes to the mids, this is like warm, smooth, and really powerful in front, you know, it's like push forward. Yet the soundstage of the Onyx is just bigger. It spreads out left and right, goes beyond the ears, and spreads out all around in front. Yes, it's not as focused as the Loki. Loki is actually really focused for the vocals, but this is a bit more spread out. And it comes to the treble part of things. The treble on the Kinera Loki is like very quick and very distinct, while the Onyx is kind of like, it's a complement, you know, the treble is a complement. It's there, it's clean, it's clear, you can hear it, but it's not going to sparkle in any way. And that affects also the sibilance, where the Kinera Loki has some sibilance and also some hot treble, but very, very slight, and is really within, as I said just now, within the tolerance for me, and I quite like it. Now, if you are not sensitive to treble, and I think I'm more sensitive than most people, I can hear some weird treble sound a lot of times. Probably this Kinera Loki is just nice for you, and the Nobel Onyx will be too dark because it really doesn't have that much treble energy. Now, I noticed I haven't talked about the bass, because the bass I leave it for the end, because it is really different. Punchy bass, not too much sub, quantity above average. The Onyx is way above average bass, deep sub bass that rumbles all the way as far as you can think. And the impact itself is not as clean as the impact on the Loki. It's a bit more rounded, but it's still impactful, it's deep, and there's a lot of sub bass. The feeling is crazy on the Onyx. So if you are into, you know, sub bass type of sound, the Onyx takes the cake. If you are into the very clear, the clean, very balanced and neutral sound, the Loki is the better one. Now, this is one track, and I want to try one more track before I end my particular review here. Now, I always will review, or should I say, you know, give an initial impression of songs I like, because these are the songs I listen day in, day out, and I love it. I love the beat, I love the vocals. Why try songs that you don't like, right? Why try songs just for the purpose of testing? It's kind of weird. Well, this is the song that I really like, so you know what? Let's try even more songs that I like. Let's look through. I mean, I love vocals, so I will focus mainly on the vocals, but I want something that can bring out that mid instrument, you know, not so much of just the highs and the lows and no mids. I want to try maybe for my review song, mid instrument. I need something with guitar pluckings. I'll go for backlight. There's a lot more mids instrument there, and there's a very punchy bass. You can tell I love Ado. I mean, this is my current singer for this part of my time. So after listening the backlight from Ado, and this one has like guitars, some electronic instrument, cymbals, a lot of drums and electric, I think more of the lower frequency type of guitar, I think bass electric guitars too. I will say as this one is also a very different render of the song. Now, when it comes to bass, I think backlight has very punchy bass, and the Kinera Loki do bring out that punchiness, but the quantity is actually lesser than I thought. While the Onyx is just bass, and very shaky and nice. Now, I think the biggest difference is at the start, where when she starts, playing the not Ado singing, it's like the instruments come in, then there was clapping, and then there's crowd screaming, together with electric. I believe it's guitar plus electric bass guitar. I think I'm not too sure on that, but during that phase, the Kinera Loki feels very compressed. Everything feels very close together, while the Onyx spreads it out. But the advantage is that the Loki does have headroom. How do I put it? There is soundstage on the top down, but not much on the left right, while the Onyx have top down left right. So I would say the Onyx is just a better soundstage, overall. But when it comes to the excitement factor, especially for electric guitars, I mean, the Loki is way better, and also when the cymbals come in, the Lokis are just really a lot more exciting. I would say there's a clapping part of things inside this song, and for clapping, I would say as the Onyx renders the clap, but it is like a clap, while the Kinera Loki do bring out the clap quite more distinctly and like more exciting sounding. Now, this is just the difference, But when it comes to the vocals itself, if I really want to put it the difference, this is like Onyx is more forward and the Kinera Loki is more recessed. A little bit more on the thinner side, while the Onyx is just really thick vocals. Now, all this does mean that to me, the Kinera Loki is a very, very, very different IEM. And this is where I want to talk about what I think about the Kinera Loki itself. The Kinera Loki is, I would say, as neutral with a tint of brightness type of IEM with very good punchy bass. Now, it is probably like a V shape, but the bass V is not that crazy. The Onyx is like bass heavy, and then not much treble, but this one is like a V shape where there is treble and there is bass, and overall very clear, even though the mids do at some cost of it comes a little bit more thin compared to the Onyx itself. But the clarity is insane on this IEM. It is really clear, one of the clearest IEM I ever heard. So if you like that kind of clarity, you like the bite in the treble region, this does give you, I would say, even though it has the bite, it doesn't have much sibilance, so it's not disgusting bad treble. It is pretty much good treble, or should I say mid-highs, you can put either one. And the general bass itself is, there is sub-bass, there is bass, it is in good quantity, it is still relatively a bassy IEM, nothing compared to the Onyx, and probably can't fight with things like the form Fat Frick or something like this. No, if you are extreme bass head, this will not satisfy you. This will not satisfy you. But if you are into more of the neutral signature with a V shape, but not the most extreme V you can ever get, I think this is really, really nice. And the extension in treble, it goes really, really far. Clarity and stuff. Now, the only downside of this IEM, after all my tests, I'm very, very sure, is that the soundstage is really narrow for me. At least with the Baroque ear tips, it is really narrow. Not the most narrow, I want to again say, it's just the Onyx is ridiculously large, and this to me sounds, I'm not comparing it here, I don't have the IEM on hand now, but U12T style, maybe the U12T is a little bit wider than this, but this is just like slightly below U12T, probably bigger than the variation kind of thing. So not very big of a soundstage, especially for an IEM of its price, but the treble extension, the bass, is pretty good. The clarity is great. The separation, because of its clarity, is pretty nice. Though sometimes it can get a bit squeezy, especially when there's a lot of bass and highs all clumped together. It gets a bit squeezy there. And the vocals itself is a little bit more on the thinner side, thinner, brighter side. So if your vocals that you listen are more biased to that, I guess it's fine, especially on the brighter vocals. But if you're going for the darker vocals, this may be just nice. Yeah, if you go for something very bright in the vocals, this may be a little bit too bright, because Ado's voice is small on the darker side, so it still sounds pretty good here. And that's about it. This is my first impression of the Kinera Loki. I think from the technical aspect of it, this is a very technically competent IM. When it comes from the sound aspect, I already described it just now. So if you like the kind of sound signature, this is for you. Now for me, I would say as I definitely most likely will not buy this IM because this is not the sound signature for me, because it does reach the limit of my appreciation for treble here. But that being said, I mean, this is still way better than a lot of IMs I have. It's just that if I have a choice for the budget between this and the Onyx, I will get the Onyx instead. That's really about it for me. Now, if I can get this kind of clarity on my Onyx and don't sacrifice the soundstage, yes, I'll be willing to pay even more than my Onyx for that. So it really tells you how much I appreciate the clarity here, the really precise, clean sound. When I first hear some of the vocal tracks, really precise, clean sound. And that's about it for today. I hope you enjoy my short little first impression of the Kinera Loki here. I mean, I believe sometimes it's called the Kinera Imperial Loki, but you know, Kinera Loki, this is a fantastic piece of IM. And before we end, let's appreciate the IM itself.